candidates. According to the survey, about half of Americans think that the debate will be very or extremely important for Biden's presidential campaign, and about 4 in 10 think it will be very or extremely important for Trump's campaign. The poll shows that overall Americans are not pleased with their options this November. It found that more than half of Americans are dissatisfied with Biden as the likely nominee, and more than half are also dissatisfied with Trump. And both candidates continue to have relatively low favorability ratings. About 4 in 10 Americans have a favorable view of Trump, and another 4 in 10 Americans have a favorable view of Biden, and that's basically where the numbers have been over the past few months. We'll see if the debate is able to change any Americans' minds.
Good afternoon.
About
Before
4
I begin
in 10
my remarks,
Americans
I just
have a
want to say a
favorable
few
view of
words
Trump,
about
and another 4 in 10
happened
Americans have a favorable
yesterday
view of
in
Biden.
New York City.
And that's basically where
The American principle that no one is above the law was reaffirmed. Donald Trump was given every opportunity to defend himself. It was a state case, not a federal case, and it was heard by a jury of 12 citizens, 12 Americans, 12 people like you, like millions of Americans who served on juries. This jury is chosen the same way every jury in America is chosen. It was a process that Donald Trump's attorney was part of. The jury heard five weeks of evidence, 5 weeks. And after careful deliberation, the jury reached a unanimous verdict. They found Donald Trump guilty on all 34 felony counts. Now he'll be given the opportunity, as he should, to appeal that decision just like everyone else has that opportunity. That's how the American system of justice works. And it's reckless, it's dangerous, it's irresponsible for anyone to say this was rigged just because they don't like the verdict. Our justice system has endured for nearly 250 years, and it literally is the cornerstone of America, our justice system. The justice system should be respected, and we should never allow anyone to tear it down. It's as simple as that. That's America. That's who we are. And that's who we'll always be, God willing.
Hello, Michigan. It's great to be back in a state I love with thousands of proud, hardworking American patriots. Thank you very much. What a turnout this is. Less than 4 years ago, our border was secure. Inflation was nowhere to be seen. We didn't have inflation. The world was at peace, and America was stronger and more respected than ever before. It was never as respected as it was just 4 years ago. Michigan was better off with Trump by a lot. You were doing great. Companies were moving back, and the car companies weren't moving out, and you weren't under a mandate to build all electric cars, which are going to all be made in China. It's just a question of a few years. And in less than 4 years, Crooked Joe's inflation nightmare and energy price hikes, the likes of which we've never seen before, they've cost the typical American household $28,000. The monthly cost of a typical mortgage has doubled and tripled even. But remember this, all of their persecution of me and others is only happening because I'm running for president and leading very big in the polls. And since the rigged trial in New York, my numbers have increased substantially. And fundraising, by the way, is, I believe, the highest numbers in the history of politics, just like these crowds. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Folks, you're changing the nation. You really are. You're changing the nation. It builds upon the dozen of executive actions my administration has taken to reduce gun violence, more than any of my predecessors, and I suspect more than all of them combined. Everything from cracking down on ghost guns, gun trafficking, so much more. Folks, we're not stopping there. It's time, once again, to do what I did when I was a senator. Ban assault weapons. Look, unfortunately, it's the only partisan thing I'm going to say. The congressional Republicans oppose all of these, every one of these. Instead of trying to stop our ban on ghost gun kits that contain these, that commit crimes, they're working like hell to stop it. They want to abolish the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, which is responsible for fighting gun crimes. You can't be pro-law enforcement and say you are pro-law enforcement and be pro-abolishing the AFT. You can't do it. It's outrageous. After a school shooting in Iowa that killed a student and a teacher, my predecessor was asked about it. You remember what he said. He said, have to get over it. Hell no, we don't have to get over it. We got to stop it. We got to stop it and stop it now. More children are killed in America by guns than cancer and car accidents combined. My predecessor told the NRA convention recently, he's proud that, quote, I did nothing on guns when I was president. And by doing nothing, he made the situation considerably worse. That's why every town, why this summit, why all of you here today are so damn important. We need you. We need you to overcome the unrelenting opposition of the gun lobby, gun manufacturers, so many politicians when they oppose common sense gun legislation. There's never been a time that says you can own anything you want. Folks, look, this is crazy what we're talking about. Because whether we're Democrats or Republicans, we want our families to be safe. We all want to drop them off at a house of worship, a mall, a movie theater, a school, without worrying it's the last time I'm going to get to see them. We all want. We all want our kids to have the freedom to learn how to read and write in schools instead of learn how to duck and cover, for God's sake. And above all, we all agree, we are not finished.
Ravaged by bloodshed and crime. 2 weeks ago, 9 people were shot in a single weekend, including 3 teenagers so seriously hurt. Murders in Philadelphia reached their highest level in 6 decades. Retail theft in Philly, I spent so much time here, is up 135% since I left office. The convenience stores are closing down left and right. The pharmacies have to lock up. According to the much better National Crime Victimization Survey, there has actually been a 43% increase in violent crime since I left office, including 58% increase in rapes, an 89% increase in aggravated assaults, and a 56% increase in robberies. Other than that, I think we're doing quite well, don't you? But with your vote, Joe Biden's wave of bedlam and death and terror will begin to recede the moment I take the oath of office, January 20th. We're going to stand up to the out-of-control, Soros-backed DAs like Philadelphia's despicable Marxist prosecutor, Larry Krasner. How did he get in? Krasner has the blood of countless men, women, children on his hands, including thousands of African-American citizens, because he refuses to prosecute people. They don't refuse to prosecute me. I got more prosecutions than any human being. I've got more than the great Alphonse Capone. You ever hear of Scarface? But Joe Biden's open border has also been a disaster for our great African-American and Hispanic-American population. So, what's happening when millions of people flow over? The people that are most hurt are, number one, the African-Americans in this country. Number two, the Hispanic. Have they taken your job yet, sirs? They better not. I don't think they're going to get your job. I'll fight for you. They're not getting your job.
We gather here today, it's not just to honor those who showed such remarkable bravery on that day, June 6, 1944. You know, we stand today where we stand was not sacred ground on June the 5th. That's what it became on June the 6th. The Rangers who scaled this cliff didn't know they would change the world, but they did. I've long said that history has shown that ordinary Americans can do extraordinary things when challenged. There's no better example of that in the entire world than right here at Pointe du Hoc. Rangers from farms and cities in every part of America, from homes that didn't know wealth and power. They came to a shoreline that none of them would have picked out on a map. They came to a country many of them had never seen, for a people they had never met. But they came. They did their job. They fulfilled their mission. And they did their duty. So listen to the echoes of their voices, to hear them, because they are summoning us, and they're summoning us now. I stand here today as the first president to come to Pointe du Hoc when none of those 225 brave men who scaled this cliff on D-Day are still alive. None. But I'm here to tell you that with them gone, the wind we hear coming off this ocean will not fade. It will grow louder as we gather here today. It's not just to honor those who showed such remarkable bravery on that day, June 6, 1944. It's to listen to the echoes of their voices, to hear them, because they are summoning us, and they're summoning us now. They ask us, what will we do? They're not asking us to scale these cliffs, but they're asking us to stay true to what America stands for. They're not asking us to give or risk our lives, but they are asking us to care for others in our country more than ourselves. They're not asking us to do their job. They're asking us to do our job, to protect freedom in our time, to defend democracy, to stand up aggression abroad and at home, to be part of something bigger than ourselves. One thought comes to mind. My God, how did they do it? We're the fortunate heirs of a legacy of these heroes, those who scaled the cliffs, Pointe du Hoc. We must also be the keepers of their mission, the keepers of their mission, the bearers of the flame of freedom that they kept burning bright. That is the truest testimonial to their lives. Our actions every day to ensure that our democracy endures and the soul of our nation endures. To come here simply to remember the ghosts of Pointe du Hoc isn't enough. We need to hear them. We have to listen to them. We need to listen to what they had. We need to make the solemn vow to never let them down. May God protect our troops. God bless America.
You know, the evangelicals and the Christians, they don't vote as much as they should. I don't know if you know that, you know. They go to church every Sunday, but they don't vote. You know the power you have if you would vote? It wouldn't even be. So you got to get out and vote. Just this time, I don't care. In 4 years, you don't have to vote, okay? As you know, the radical left is trying to shame Christians, silence you, demoralize you, and They want to keep you out of politics. They don't want you to vote. That's why you have to vote. They're counting on you now, because if you vote no, we cannot lose. But Christians cannot afford to sit on the sidelines. If Joe Biden gets back in, Christianity will not be safe in a nation with no borders, no laws, no freedom, no future. You're not going to be safe. You're not going to be safe as a person, and your religion certainly will be, I think, in tatters. The reason the radical left will always come after religious believers is simple, because they know that our allegiance is not to them. Our allegiance is not to them. Our allegiance is to our country, and our allegiance is to our Creator. And we do not answer to the bureaucrats in Washington. We answer to God in heaven. You're not even allowed to say that anymore. Today, if you say that, they want to arrest you. Who likes the 10 Commandments, by the way, going up in the schools? They think it's such a bad thing. I said, has anyone read the thou shalt not steal, thou shalt... I mean, has anybody read this incredible stuff? It's just incredible. They don't want it to go up. We did something that was amazing. The big problem was it was caught up in the federal government, but the people will decide, and that's the way it should be. The people are now deciding, and some states are a little bit more conservative, and some states are much more liberal. Every voter has to go with your heart and do what's right, but we also have to get elected. I want to thank the 6 Supreme Court Justices, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, John Roberts, Brett Kavanaugh, Neil Gorsuch, and Amy Coney Barrett for the wisdom and the courage they showed on this long-term, very contentious issue. This has been a long time it's been fought. These people are tough. They're so tough. Dana White, did anyone ever hear of Dana White? He's a legend, right? UFC, ultimate fighter, ultimate fighting, and he's a fantastic man. I said, Dana, I have an idea. Why don't you set up a migrant league of fighters and have your regular league of fighters, and then you have the champion of your league. These are the greatest fighters in the world. Fight the champion of the migrants. I think the migrant guy might win. That's how tough they are. He didn't like that idea too much, but actually it's not the worst idea I've ever had.
Javier, thank you. These young people known as dreamers, Hispanics, South Asians, and more, who came to America as children, only know America as their home, have been able to live and learn out of the shadows. So many of them have graduated from high school and college and are starting families on their own, building successful careers, serving our nation in uniform, and so much more. We're a much better and stronger nation because of dreamers like Javier, who just introduced me. So today I'm announcing new measures to clarify and speed up work visas to help people, including dreamers, who have graduated from U.S. colleges and universities, landed jobs in high-demand, high-skilled professions that we need to have grow to see our economy grow. It's the right thing to do. Just ask business leaders, ask labor leaders, ask economists, ask elected officials. They know it's good for American business. They know it's good for the American economy. They know it's good for America, period. This step builds on other actions we've taken to support dreamers, from defending dreamers in the courts and expanding access to health care. My dad used to have an expression. He said, Joey, family's about the beginning, middle, and the end, about keeping couples together who are married, where one spouse is a U.S. citizen, the other is undocumented. They've been living in the United States for at least 10 years. These couples have been raising families, sending their kids to church and school, paying taxes, contributing to our country for 10 years or more. Matter of fact, the average time they've spent here is 23 years, people who are affected today. But living in the United States all this time with fear and uncertainty. We can fix that, and that's what I'm going to do today. Fix it. But I also refuse to believe that for us to continue to be America that embraces immigration, we have to give up securing our border. They're false choices. We can both secure the border and provide legal pathways to citizenship. We have to acknowledge that the patience and goodwill of the American people is being tested by their fears at the border. They don't understand a lot of it. These are the fears my predecessor's trying to play on when he says immigrants. Immigrants, and his words are poison the blood of the country. When he calls immigrants, in his words, animals. When he was president, he separated families and children at the border. And now he's proposing to rip spouses and children from their families and homes and communities and place them in detention camps. He's actually saying these things. It's hard to believe it's being said, but he's actually saying these things out loud. And it's outrageous. I will work with anyone to solve these problems. That's my responsibility as president. Folks, I'm not interested in playing politics with the border or immigration. I'm interested in fixing it. I said it before. We're a nation of immigrants. And that's who we are.
I love Milwaukee. I was the one that picked Milwaukee, I have to tell you. I was the one that picked it. These lying people that they say, oh, he doesn't like Milwaukee. I love Milwaukee. I said, you got to fix the crime. We all know that. You got to make sure the election's honest. But I'm the one that picked Milwaukee, and the Democrats or the radical left lunatics, as I call them, what they say is just so terrible. They lie. They have a horrible candidate. They have a candidate that has no clue, doesn't know where he is, and all they can do is lie. Under crooked Joe Biden, the world is in flames. Our border is overrun. Inflation is raging. Europe is in total chaos. The Middle East is exploding. Iran is emboldened. China is on the march. And the worst, most incompetent, most corrupt president in history is going to drag us into World War III. Other than that, he's doing quite a good job, don't you think? Joe Biden is humiliating our country on the world stage. He's actually humiliating us. You saw what happened this weekend. It's turning the United States into a total joke all over the world. We can't get him out fast enough. I'm worried about the next 5 months. We could end up in World War III with this person. He's the worst president ever. He's going to formally grant a mass amnesty to millions of illegal aliens that came into our country. And you have people that have been working for 10 years to try and come in legally, and they just keep working. Under this program, a deluge of illegals will be given immediate green cards and put on the fast track to rapid citizenship so they can vote. I think a lot of them are going to vote for me. You want to know the truth? Chain migration, one of the catastrophic things, one of the many catastrophic things that we're confronted with when they come in. Crooked Joe is sending a message to the world that he rewards illegal entry, and that's what's happening. Joe Biden wants to be the president for illegal aliens, but I will be the president for law-abiding Americans, every background, every walk of life, every race, religion, color, and creed. I'll be the president. When you let in people that come out of prisons for murder, it's not going to end well. We're going to have a lot of problems, and we're going to get them out. We're going to get them out as fast as we can. We're going to have the largest deportation. We have no choice. Almost all of the new jobs in this country are going to illegals. They're not going to our people. They're going to illegals. And that's why the black population, Hispanic population, is voting for me at levels that nobody's ever seen before in this country.
And
You made us in your image and made us. If we will not turn to your word, if we will not turn to justice, we pray that you would bring those who need, that the questions, Lord, that we ask are the right questions. And yeah, we pray that all those lies will be exposed. And Lord, that we would be exposed for what it is. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. The greatest generation gave everything.
Hello, Phoenix. Hello, Phoenix. We love Phoenix. We've done well in Phoenix. Too big to rig. Too big. We want to be too big to rig. You know, there gets to be a point where they can't rig it, so we have an expression. Charlie and I were just talking. It's called too big to rig. I just went through a rigged trial in New York with a highly conflicted, and I mean highly conflicted, judge, where there was no crime. It was made up, fabricated stuff. They didn't want to bring the case. They could have brought the case 7 years ago. Less than 5 months from now, and we're going, and I'll tell you what, we have to change the system. We have to straighten out what's going on in these courts. We got a rigged deal going, this whole country, and we've got to do it. And those appellate courts have to step up and straighten things out, or we're not going to have a country any longer. But we're going to win the great state of Arizona, and we're going to tell crooked Joe Biden, you're fired. You're doing a lousy job, the worst job. The worst president in history. Joe, you're fired. And it's all unsustainable. But the Biden invasion is no accident. It's a deliberate demolition of our sovereignty and of our borders. Somehow, somebody's going to explain to us why they would want this to happen. I guess it's probably votes. And I have to say, Arizona is being turned into a dumping ground for the dungeons of the third world. They're all coming in. In Venezuela, crime, think of this, Venezuela. Next time we'll meet in Venezuela, it'll be safer. In Venezuela, crime is down 72%. Because it's called, we answer you ask a question, we answer the question. Yes, darling, please.
Thank you, Mr.
Again, I say it all the time, he's the single worst president in the history of our country. You know, until I got indicted. I got indicted 4 times. Can you believe it? I never spoke. You know, I spoke. I'm a politician, I guess. I can't stand the name, but I'm a politician, I guess. I ran. I won. The only thing I did wrong was I beat somebody that I wasn't supposed to beat. We won the election in 2016. 7 years, somebody else said 78 years. I'd say it's in the history. You look at the cost of food, and you look at the cost of energy, and you see where it is. And I think we're almost 50%.
America's unique ability to bring countries together is an undeniable source of our strength and our power. We know the dark forces that these heroes fought against 80 years ago. They never fade. Aggression and greed, the desire to dominate and control, to change borders by force. These are perennial. The struggle between a dictatorship and freedom is unending. Here in Europe, we see one stark example. Ukraine has been invaded by a tyrant bent on domination. Ukrainians are fighting with extraordinary courage, suffering great losses, but never backing down. The United States and NATO and a coalition of more than 50 countries standing strong with Ukraine. We will not walk away. Because if we do, Ukraine will be subjugated, and it will not end there. Ukraine's neighbors will be threatened. All of Europe will be threatened. And make no mistake, the autocrats of the world are watching closely to see what happens in Ukraine, to see if we let this illegal aggression go unchecked. We cannot let that happen. To surrender to bullies, to bow down to dictators, is simply unthinkable. Were we to do that, it means we'd be forgetting what happened here in these hallowed beaches. Make no mistake, we will not bow down. We will not forget. Let me end with this. History tells us freedom is not free. The price of unchecked tyranny is the blood of the young and the brave. In their generation, in their hour of trial, the Allied forces of D-Day did their duty. Now the question for us is, in our hour of trial, will we do ours? We're living in a time when democracy is more at risk across the world than any point since the end of World War II, since these beaches were stormed in 1944. Now we have to ask ourselves, will we stand against tyranny, against evil, against crushing brutality of the iron fist? Will we stand for freedom? Will we defend democracy? Will we stand together? My answer is yes, it only can be yes. We're not far off from the time when the last living voices of those who fought and bled on D-Day will no longer be with us. So we have a special obligation. We cannot let what happened here be lost in the silence of the years to come. We must remember it, must honor it, and live it. And we must remember the fact that they were heroes here that day does not absolve us from what we have to do today. Democracy is never guaranteed. Every generation must preserve it, defend it, and fight for it. That's the test of the ages. In memory of those who fought here, died here, literally saved the world here, let us be worthy of their sacrifice. Thank you very much, and may God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you.
Hello to everyone at the Danbury Institute and to all of the wonderful pastors and faith leaders, very respected people, gathered for the Southern Baptist Convention annual meeting. That's a big deal. I want to thank each and every one of you for your tremendous devotion to God and to country and your tremendous support of me. And I hope I've earned it because we've done things that nobody thought were possible to have gotten done. These are difficult times for our nation, and your work is so important. We can't afford to have anyone sit on the sidelines. Now is the time for us to all pull together and to stand up for our values and for our freedoms. And you just can't vote Democrat. They're against religion. They're against your religion in particular. You cannot vote for Democrats, and you have to get out and vote. We have to defend religious liberty, free speech, innocent life, and the heritage and tradition that built America into the greatest nation in the history of the world. But now we are, as you know, a declining nation. And I might add, we are a seriously declining nation. Seriously, and so sad. I know that each of you is protecting those values every day, and I hope we'll be defending them side by side for your next 4 years. These are going to be your years, because you're going to make a comeback like just about no other group. I know what's happening. I know where you're coming from and where you're going. and I'll be with you side by side. So again, thank you once again for everything you do, and you have to get out and vote. Our religious leaders have to get their incredible people that love them so much and respect them so much, have to get them out to vote. God bless you, and God bless America. Millions of people will continue pouring in, and they're coming right through the border like they have never come through before. What he signed means nothing. In fact, it makes it easier. In my opinion, it opens the border still further. We have people coming into our country. We're going to end up making, and I say this and I say it all the time, November 5th will be the most important day in the history of our country. We only have a few hours. We don't have enough time. And now, by the way, it's 110, but it doesn't feel it to me, right? So we'll stay out here for a little while. If anybody gets tired, you'll let me know. And if anybody goes down, if you start going down, we have people that pick you up.
Over the years, you and I have spoken a number of times, and you've talked about why you believe that Donald Trump is unlikely to win this year's race and election, and you put your money behind Joe Biden. How do you feel tonight?
Well, listen, that was a terrible debate performance. And so if the election was held today, let's say we all went to the polls today, Donald Trump would win the presidency. The president looked out of sorts. And I think one of your last guests probably even explained it better than I can. He wasn't prepped right for that debate. You're an older man. You got to think like Roger Ailes did with Ronald Reagan. You don't fill his head with facts and figures that he's never going to remember. And so he came out of the block saying that he created 15,000 jobs when he wanted to say that he created 15 million, and it spiraled out of control from there. And then second, and the last point is on the split screen, nobody prepped him for, hey, there's going to be 2 minutes of you staring into the camera. You got to look like you're put together. You can't have your mouth open. You can't have a distant look in your face when you're listening to President Trump. And so those things killed him. I mean, even, he talked for 2 minutes. Sometimes he couldn't talk for 2 minutes, but it was really the 2 minutes when he wasn't talking that hurt him. And then, of course, the Trump kill shot was, I don't think he knows what he just said. I don't know what he just said, and I don't think he does either. And I think that was the kill shot last night. So that debate is over. I predict that Joe Biden is not dropping out of the race. We have 5 months to go here, and I see him regaining traction, but they've got to control him and prep him more for this. And just for your listeners quickly in the UK, Ohio has forced the Democrats to make a decision on their nominee by August 7th. So theoretically, if they wanted to pull Joe Biden, they only have 40 days to put this together to get somebody on the Ohio ballot. Now, I don't even think that's likely. So Joe Biden is going to be their nominee. And it's worse today than it was yesterday for sure, but there's plenty of time left in this race.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're also hearing that he's likely to do another debate on September the 10th. That's what we were hearing earlier today. But just looking at his performance just now at that rally, this is not a man who looks like he's going to step down or step aside or allow someone else to step in. So what do you think the Democrats should do in terms of a strategy? I mean, sure, 4 months is a long time in politics, but also a lot of Americans would have probably made up their minds after seeing last night's performance.
Yeah, but again, Americans, like many of us now, have very short-term attention spans, and there's a lot of things that can change. Remember, President Trump is going to be sentenced in New York on July 11th, which is, 2 weeks from now. A lot can change. And you're right, election held today, Joe Biden loses, but 4 months from now, there'll be a whole new slate of facts. There'll be a whole new level of engagement and controversy that's going on. I don't think he has any choice but to debate, by the way. So if he's staying in the race, he's got to show up on September the 10th. And but they got to handle him better. They got to get him in more of a narrative setting, less in a fact-based setting. What he was doing there today in that rally was quite good. I know how to do the job. I may not be as quick on my
he was reading
feet.
off a prompter.
I understand that, but they can get him to speak in a narrative related to those bullet points, as opposed to trying to tell people how many jobs were created or, what inflation went down to and all of the things that were, they prepped him and said, let's go to Camp David for a week. We're going to cram your head with all these facts. You're going to look super competent at the end of the debate. It was just the wrong strategy because he couldn't keep that together for the 90 minutes. But if they had went to him and said, okay, here's what we're going to prep you on: competence, the NATO relationship, our global alliances, a very strong economy, stick to those 5 themes no matter what anybody says to you, he would have came out of there okay last night. It was just really bad. And also the split screen. I mean, you and I right now are on a split screen. And you look like you're listening to me. You may not be listening to me, but you're doing a good job looking like you're listening to me.
I'm listening.
And okay, well, I appreciate you listening, but my point is the president looked out of it in the split screen, and I don't know who prepped him, but you can't look out of it in a split screen.
Yeah, indeed. As you say, all of those optics matter in something like this that's televised, not just across America, but around the world. Anthony, thank you so much, as always, for joining us here on the programme.
Nice to be with you. Have a good weekend.
Let's bring in Brett Bruen, former White House Director of Global Engagement under Barack Obama. Thank you very much, Brett, for joining us here on the programme. I mean, everyone's describing this as a fumbling performance, a party that's now panicked. The headlines speak for themselves. Well, what we just saw in the last few minutes in North Carolina does not look like a man who's going to step aside or walk away.
It doesn't, and yet I think we are going to watch this painfully play out over the next several hours, days. But ultimately, I do not think, and I'm not saying this because I wish it to be so, but I do not think that President Joe Biden can be the Democratic Party's standard bearer in 2024. Last night's performance was astonishingly bad, and you cannot just be strong on the teleprompter. You cannot just be strong in the midday rallies. You have to be strong in those debates. You have to be strong at all hours. And I thank President Biden for his service. I worked alongside him in the Obama White House, but he has got to give way to the next generation because there is quite simply too much at stake in this election. And stubbornly sticking on for the sake of his ego, for the sake of some sense of self-importance is quite frankly political suicide, but it is also going to put our country in peril. He needs to step.
And yet it feels like there is a Biden bubble, that those around him aren't necessarily tapping him on the shoulder, including Democratic elders, and having that kind of Nixon moment where it's like, Mr. President, it's over.
Well, and Lyndon Baines Johnson, another president who did, in fact, in 1968, step down in the face of Robert F. Kennedy Sr.'s campaign and the rising protest in the streets against the Vietnam War. You're right, an intervention is needed. And the problem, both with the Biden campaign as well as with the Biden White House, is that they are too insulated. They do not challenge assumptions. It's the reason why we saw such a poor performance on display last night. His campaign team should be fired. The campaign advisors should be fired. You put out your candidate in that kind of format. You ought to have tested him before you even proposed the idea, ensure that he could last 90 minutes. Anthony Scaramucci was talking about the need to stay focused even when you're not on camera, to finish 2-minute answers and to endure those questions over 90 minutes. He clearly could not, and I don't understand why in the world this was ever proposed by Biden himself.
Yeah, do you think that they over-prepared him?
There's a component of that. Yes, absolutely. And look, I've been in presidential prep. You're getting so much information thrown at you from all of these advisors, and then somehow you're supposed to retain it. President Obama was better, quite frankly, than President Biden is on this. And that's not just an age thing. Biden was never particularly good at retaining a lot of this information. But I think to the point of some of your earlier commentators, Biden needed to come in with a simple, sticky message. I'm a communicator. We prep CEOs and others all the time. Don't try and explain in that 2 minutes. You don't have the time to get across a bunch of facts and figures. It's about the feeling. And the feeling that American viewers walked away with was, quite frankly, one of great concern and confusion.
Yeah, indeed. Brett, thank you so much for joining us here on the programme.
We'll be with you.
Well, we've still got Hillary Rosen here with me in the studio. I mean, Hillary, it has been a difficult 24 hours for the Biden camp. But if I just take you back to that idea of the Biden bubble, which, you have been exposed to, a lot of the people very intimately around him, what do you think they're saying to him right now? Because they're seeing the coverage. They may even be protecting him from it, but they can see it.
They're seeing the coverage, and they knew that this could happen. They did. I mean, because they live with him every day. They understand when he's good, what, environments he's good in, and what environments he's not good in. Here's the interesting thing about the way the Biden operation works, which is this is really a person who has his own ego, his own sense of self. He is not one who takes advice in the traditional sense very easily from people who work for him. He thinks he knows it all. He's been around a long time. Some of that "I've been around a long time" is what exactly works against him. And so now to have a little humility, to step back, to think about what's best for the country, what's best for the party, is going to require him doing that. Yes, people around him need to push him to do that, but he is a very stubborn person, and if he doesn't get there, it's not going to happen. Something Brett said that I've been thinking about a lot, which is when Joe Biden was first running for president in 2019, he talked about himself as a bridge to the next generation. He talked about that in his inauguration. He's consistently said that that's what he cares about. He needs to take a really deep look at where he is building this bridge and how quickly he's willing to walk across it and let other people walk across it. And that, I think, is the thing that his team and other Democratic leaders have to be talking to him about over the next 10 days.
Yeah, and I mean, we've got about 30 seconds left, but this is a man who's been doing this for 55 years. Expecting him to change in the next 4 months is unlikely.
People don't change. His advisors tell me that a lot.
Indeed, very much so. Well, Hillary, it's been fascinating talking to you and covering this momentous occasion and everything that we've seen over the last 24 hours. Thank you so much for joining us. So, lots to dissect there. Joe Biden admitted he doesn't debate as well as he used to, but he knows how to lead the country. That's his message. Despite all the pressure and controversy surrounding his performance during the debate, we've heard from a current president and a candidate insisting he's the right man for the job now and for the next 4 years. We'll have to see how it unfolds in the next few months. Thank you so much for watching our special edition of The World.
so that we can get more aid in as we get it from Cyprus.
So is there anything that the U.S. can do to help get that aid moving out of the marshalling yard?
So that's something that we've been having ongoing conversations with the WFP, and by we, I should say the larger, broader we. It's an interagency effort that's really being spearheaded by USAID. So for more updates on those conversations, I'd refer you to them to speak to how those conversations are going with WFP. But we all know that this is a priority. We want to see distribution pick back up. We want to see aid delivered to the people that need it most. We certainly know and understand and are monitoring the.
All right, everyone, we are going to take another 2-minute break on Live Now from Fox. Stay right here with us. More to come in just moments. And welcome back, everyone, here to Live Now from Fox. We take you out to Virginia, where parts of the Donald Trump rally starting to happen here. So just like how we did for Joe Biden, we had his rally in full from North Carolina. Let's listen in right now here on Live Now from Fox to Trump's in Virginia.
Who won the debate? Well, even CNN agrees with you all. Now, folks, there are some really clear competing visions about the differences and comparisons on a wide range of issues on our side compared to the
They know it's good for America, period. This step builds on other actions we've taken to support dreamers, from defending dreamers in the courts and expanding access to health care. My dad used to have an expression. He said, Joey, family's about the beginning, middle, and the end. About keeping couples together who are married, where one spouse is a U.S. citizen, the other is undocumented. They've been living in the United States for at least 10 years. These couples have been raising families, sending their kids to church and school, paying taxes, contributing to our country for 10 years or more. Matter of fact, the average time they've spent here is 23 years, people were affected today. But living in the United States all this time with fear and uncertainty. We can fix that, and that's what I'm going to do today.